Sit.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Town Board of the Town of Ossining work session and special meeting for May 3rd, 2016. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I was going to ask everybody if you could please remain standing, but since we're all sitting now, if you could please stand for a moment of silence to recognize the passing of Andrew Tully, Esquire, who left this earth last week. Mr. Tully was an esteemed member of our community who devoted so much of his time giving back to the underrepresented, specifically those in our Latino community, who he represented for many, many years pro bono to make sure unscrupulous contractors did not get away with taking advantage of those who put their all into working for others. Please, a moment of silence. Thank you. So I'm going to move around and I'm going to invite my fellow board members to join me in just a moment. Tonight, we have a special recognition of one of our Ossining High School, I'm touching things that I should not be, I'm sorry about that. One of our Ossining High School art students. Once again this year, as part of our Earth Day celebration, we challenged art students to come up with a graphic to respond to a theme that tied into our earth and our community. This year's theme was Ossining on the Horizon, to tie into the river and the waterfront. Tonight, we are pleased to recognize one of two winners who's here with us tonight, whose artwork was selected by a committee, including Andrew Kaplan and Susie Ross from Green Ossining. Susie also deserves special recognition tonight for her awesome work leading the committee that ran another super successful Earth Day celebration a couple of weeks ago. Thank you to both Susie and to Andrew and the committee for their work getting our art students to participate with Earth Day. Now, on behalf of the town board and myself, I'd like to invite Brittany Marquez to join us here at the podium. Brittany, your beautiful artwork will become a mural on the comfort station at Louis Engle Park, Waterfront Park. How do you feel? I want you to come on up here and tell us how you feel. And I'm going to give you a certificate and the board members. I'm going to show, oops, show your artwork, which was the selected art, and then show that to everybody. And
very nice.
Wow.
And before we honor you with a certificate and congratulate you, we were wondering if you might talk a little bit about what inspired you to this beautiful work.
Well, I wasn't really specifically thinking about something, but I just popped out of my mind, just thinking about the future life and what it's gonna progress and stuff in Ossining. So I really, really love Ossining. I adore it and would never move somewhere else. That's what I think right now. And I really hope to see how my friends and my little brother grow up. So that kind of popped in my mind, the nourishing of life and how time progresses and stuff.
Fantastic.
Beautiful.
All right. That's great.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations. We're so excited to have this wonderful work of art is going to be on the side of our comfort station down at the park. And we have a special certificate for you from the board to recognize you for your hard work and your creativity and your thoughtfulness. And you're going to be giving back to your community. And it's so nice that you're going to have this representation there for all the years that you plan to be here, which is forever, according to you. And with your family, we're really looking forward to having your continued presence down at our waterfront. So congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited. I'm so glad that your parents and your little brother were able to join us here tonight.
What's your brother's name?
Michael.
Michael. Oh, my son's named Michael.
Michael, you should
Do
be
you
very
like
proud.
the painting, Michael? Did you like the painting?
Yes.
All right, that's good.
And I guess I should mention that I believe that your art teacher has discussed with us if it will work to have this painted at the end of May, early June. So hopefully it'll be all done by the first week in June, and then we're going to invite our community to come to the waterfront to take a look and see what they think of this beautiful artwork. So we're really looking forward to it. Thank you again. Congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Do you guys want a photograph all together?
Yeah, let's take a picture. Come on. We'll take a picture.
Yeah. Picture with the picture?
Yeah. With the picture and with the certificate and
Here, you hold this.
all right.
Very nice.
Thanks.
See Michael doing the
Thank
pictures
you.
too.
All right. Great job. Thanks again.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to you.
Very nice picture.
Oh, you made plenty of wonderful pieces of work too, Karen. Very talented watercolorist. Okay. Oh yes, and of course you do not have to stay. We'd love to have you, but you should feel free to get home to do your homework or whatever else you need to do.
Thank you all of you guys. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you.
Bye. Have a nice
Thank you, my
day.
talented daughter. Bye, Michael.
Good night.
Okay, so very excited. Oh, I forgot that I was going to also do the recognition. I think what we're going to do is we're going to try. We had another student also whose work also won the contest for mural painting to go on the other side of our comfort station. She couldn't be with us tonight, so we're going to wait until she couldn't be with us, and then we will unveil that piece as well for the community. Okay. And her name is Leah O'Nien, and we'll be able to get her here, and if not, we'll show you the artwork another day. I also just wanted to mention that you'll be able to enjoy that artwork hopefully in time for our fireworks, which this year, as you have heard earlier in our meetings, but just as a reminder, will be Thursday, June 30th, a little early, but it is the holiday weekend, that Thursday prior to the holiday weekend, and following that, every Friday after that weekend, we will have our summer concert series down at the waterfront starting at 7 p.m. through late August. Tonight we have a two-part meeting starting with a number of items on our work session agenda. First, we will hear from John Hamilton, the town building inspector, who will present to us his recommendations for adopting a Knox box law to keep properties accessible to first responders. Then he will discuss recommendations for ground-mounted solar panel regulations. Following that, we look forward to a brief update from John on what is happening in the town building department. John will also weigh in as part of the discussion to follow his presentation about our fee schedule proposed changes, specifically to discuss fees for work pertaining to his department, as well as the planning board. Following John, we will discuss other fees, including burials for the indigent that are arranged through social service agencies. We will then hear from Ossining Volunteer Ambulance Corps Chief Nick Franzoso, who will speak to us about OVAC and give us an update on all the good work that they've been doing throughout our area. Following Chief Franzoso, we will have a final review of our two local laws regarding SECRA and our Type 1 list, which we have been discussing at public hearings. After that, we will review the calendars of those elected or appointed officials that are outside of bargaining units. These calendars go to the Pension Integrity Bureau of the New York State Retirement Fund to make sure we are all correctly reporting the hours we work, and we are required to have that at a public meeting. Finally, we will again discuss the proposed request for a New York State home rule law that would allow the mortgage recording tax to be distributed differently than it has been to date. After our work session, we will enter into a special meeting to vote on the mortgage recording tax resolution and to honor the request of our elected tax receiver, Gloria Freed, to hire Mark Toulis and Robin Goldsand to conduct in-rem foreclosure proceedings upon the unpaid tax liens for 2015 and file the 2016 list of delinquent taxes, as well as perform title and lien searches required in connection with the 2015 list of delinquent taxes and prepare documents for closing on properties that have been auctioned. Do any of my board colleagues have any announcements? Otherwise, I'm going to launch into quite a long list of them. Yeah, okay. That's
You
it.
got that?
I got that, yeah.
Okay.
So, if you know what, let me launch into my long list, and then if you have some additions, hopefully. Number 1, our town police station number is no longer operational. So if you need to reach the police and it is not an emergency, please dial 941-4099, and you'll speak to the Ossining Police Department. Obviously, in case of an emergency, please dial 911. Regarding the reassessment, I wanted to let everybody know that we've been in conversations with our town assessor, town of Greenberg assessor, and our state legislators to explore the possibility of a select phase-in of taxes over 3 years for those who currently receive Star or Enhanced Star and whose assessments went up 25% or more with the revaluation, as a result of the revaluation. We will let you know as we get further along with the bill how we do, if it gets introduced, and if local advocacy will be needed. I wanted to mention that we are starting to receive guidance from the federal government, county and state about addressing Zika virus. We will be posting information to our website, but there are 5 communication points that I wanted to point out, except for that I put them elsewhere, and I have them now in my file. So if I can find them a little bit later, I will share them a little bit later with you. Otherwise, I'll share them in future meetings, but the basic premise of the outreach is education and letting people know that the threat really comes from a certain breed of mosquitoes, doesn't really affect people who are not pregnant, except in some cases you can have a reaction, but that the most important thing is to let women who could become pregnant or are pregnant know what the risks are, and to make sure that you mitigate the spread of mosquitoes to the best of your ability, get rid of any standing water, and just make sure that if you do have any kind of bird baths or anything like that, that you keep changing the water regularly so you don't have water standing. And there are there's other information also to share, and I will try to find that a little bit. Okay, now I've lost my place. We have many events coming up, especially this weekend, starting Friday, May 6th at 7 p.m. The village has invited us to the naming of the Nelson Park tennis courts in honor and in memory of Shannon Ross, who is an incredible advocate for the sport of tennis in our community for every age group, from toddlers to senior citizens, in our schools, in our community programs, and throughout. We're so pleased at the village's decision to honor her memory and her family with this dedication. And we hope everyone will join us at Nelson Park to participate.
What date is that?
That's this Friday, May 6th at 7 p.m. Great. Saturday, May 7th, early in the morning, Riverkeeper is holding its 2016 Riverkeeper Sweep, which is its 5th annual day of service for the Hudson River and its tributaries. I will be down at the river at Engle Park at 8:30 a.m., rain or shine, to pitch in, and I hope you will join me. You can register online with Riverkeeper by selecting your community to participate. Following that, also on Saturday the 7th, I Love My Park Day will be celebrated on the Old Croton Aqueduct, sponsored by Friends of the Old Croton Aqueduct, to rid the trail of invasive plants. Volunteers are meeting at the Croton Gorge Unique Area on Quaker Bridge Road in Croton, between houses number 124 and number 99, starting at 9:30 a.m. and going until 3 p.m. Also, you can register online at ptny.org/ILoveMyPark, but walk-ins are also welcome. At 10 a.m. on Saturday, Ossining's first annual Health and Wellness Day will take place to support the Baker Collier Christmas Cheer Fund, and it will kick off at Lewis Engle Waterfront Park with over 40 vendors, music all day long, activities for children, and demos by local activity and fitness businesses, where we are launching the Mind, Body, Spirit Ossining initiative to celebrate our parks and keep our minds and bodies in tip-top condition. I hope you will join us for part or all of the day there until 4 p.m. Also all day in Ossining, Green Ossining is sponsoring a town-wide tag sale. I think they're meeting in the room right next door to us to continue the planning. You should look for the signs around town to take advantage of all the treasures that are being offered by your neighbors and to help support reuse in our community.
They also have all the tag sale sites listed on greenossining.org. There'll be a Google map.
Greenossining.org, and probably also on Green Ossining has a Facebook page, I believe.
.org.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, and the Green
I'm
Ossining
guessing
Facebook page has preliminary, people are posting what's gonna be at their tag sale, but you're not allowed to buy it yet.
Okay.
So, anyway.
Go and see what treasures can be found. Stash the Trash is also continuing all of this week through May 7th. You can go to the Ossining Community Center to pick up gloves and garbage bags, and you get to pick a spot that needs some love to tackle cleaning up with your friends and family. You can let them know at the community center where you are going to be picking up trash, and the village DPW will pick up the bags that you collect, so you do not need to bring the bags back to the community center. Also on Saturday, in case you weren't busy enough, T-Town's annual plant sale will take place from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Or if you want to plan ahead, you can go to their first pick sale on Friday, May 6th, pay a little bit more, and you get to choose first. That's also taking place at T-Town Nature Preserve. A documentary about rehabilitation through the arts at Sing Sing is being shown in the Carriage House at T-Town at 7 p.m. this Thursday, May 5th. Having just seen a production at Sing Sing that was done through rehabilitation through the arts, I can tell you firsthand it is an extremely impressive program, which has also reduced recidivism and made it possible for those coming out of prison to be much more successful in our society. And it was an incredible production of William Shakespeare's Twelfth Night. So I encourage you to go to see the documentary this Thursday. This Thursday night is also the Briarcliff Manor Chamber of Commerce's Cinco de Mayo Chili Cook-Off. There will be free tastings from 5 to 7 p.m., live music, children's crafts, a face painter, and the Briarcliff Manor Fire Department will have a truck for viewing. The winner will be announced at 7:30 p.m., so come to downtown Briarcliff to enjoy. Also in the village of Briarcliff, it's hydrant flushing time. Yesterday, phase 1 of the village's hydrant flushing program started. During the 5-day village-wide flushing program, multiple crews will be mobilized to flush hydrants on water mains throughout the village, and it will run through Friday, May 6th. As a result of this necessary work, residents can expect discolored water at any time, but particularly during the day, starting from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The village of Ossining is also in the middle of its hydrant flushing program. They're off for tonight because of the fire department meetings, but they should be finished up early next week. The Columbus Lodge Car Show, which was rained out for last Sunday, has been rescheduled for Sunday, May 15th at the train station. Also, a heads up, the Ossining Fire Department Annual Parade, which usually takes place in August, will be taking place Saturday, May 21st. Monitor Hose is celebrating its 100th anniversary that weekend, so the department wanted to make the parade part of that celebration. It should be very exciting.
Certainly be cool in August.
Okay, and with that, are there any additional announcements that anybody has that I might have missed? I tried to capture all the millions of things that are happening in spring.
You captured everything.
All right, so with that said, we can now go into our work session agenda. I would invite Mr. John Hamilton to over to here, I guess? Or you want to sit up here? You can sit up here if you want. Shall I sit over here?
Is that right?
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I was asked to come speak to you tonight about a couple of different items. The first one I wanted to talk to you about was ground-mounted solar panel systems. We had somebody approach us a while back. They didn't end up doing the project, but they asked if it was legal for them to put a solar panel system on the ground in their backyard. And in our ordinances, it's allowed. I don't have anything against solar, nothing at all, but I think we might want to visit that situation. We could have somebody put in their backyard 20, 30 panels. And you know, we have to start thinking about the neighbors and how it would affect them aesthetically, how it would affect them. I don't know if, I know they absorb light, but I don't know if there's a little reflection coming off, and if they're tilted towards that direction, if you're going to have a lot of that there. So I was hoping that the board would consider passing a resolution that would require any solar panel system that is not mounted on the roof of the primary building be referred to our architectural review board, so they can make a determination to see if there's going to be any problems with any adjoining properties, if it's going to cause any kind of issue.
And do you know if any other communities have adopted such a?
I'm not sure if they've adopted them. I know in the village, they have one house that has about 20 of them in the backyard. And that's what kind of like put a little flag up to me that this could become an issue. Again, I'm not discouraging people putting solar in. My gosh, we've already issued 17 this year, and we probably issued over 30 last year. But I just want to make sure that we're not going to be interfering with other people's lives while we're doing it.
I mean, does anybody else, anybody have any questions for John before we want to have a little discussion about it?
How many people have come to you with wanting to do only one person so far?
We only had one in the residential. Now, we currently have a system on North State Road in the commercial area.
Right.
And it's there, it's in the commercial area, so it's not a big deal. But I looked at that system and I'm picturing it in somebody's backyard. And currently we treat these solar panel systems as accessory structures. So that means that the only requirements you have is that it's 10 feet off the property line and no more than 15 feet in height. So if you pictured somebody who put maybe 15 feet up, 10, 15 solar panels in the yard, and you're having a barbecue, it could pose an issue. And I just want to make sure that good neighbors stay good neighbors.
I think it's a really good idea. Yeah, they're not saying no, just that it should be reviewed and probably discussed with the neighbors.
I don't disagree.
That was all I was gonna say. I think it's a good idea to check it out. Cause just like you just now thought of, or noticed it, somebody will come up with it.
Yeah, you know, they didn't end up doing the project, but that doesn't mean they won't, or that other people will feel, wow, I don't really want to put a hole in my roof. I'll put them in the backyard, and I'll screen them off between my house and them, so I don't get to see them. And we just want to make sure the neighbors, maybe they need to put a little screening up or something, just to make it palpable.
So this way they'll be looked at on a case-by-case basis.
Exactly, we would
Perfect.
send them to the architectural review board, and case by case, they decide what would be the best way to go.
You know, they've been doing so much of this work at pace, you know, looking into planning and management, especially with new, you know, sustainable resources and things such as solar panels. So it might be good to see, I mean, I know that they also have recommendations for making it easier for people to put solar panels on their roofs. I'm wondering if they've also explored this at all, and if they also have some recommendations that maybe we could get. And I was also going to ask our council over here if you guys have had any opportunities with other municipalities that you represent or that you have dealt with, any suggestions from you?
This is the first time that somebody's brought it up, but I think it's a very good point. What I would suggest is we can do a little investigation. I just looked online. I see that New Rochelle has some solar collector panel regulations. I don't know how extensive they are. There are probably other municipalities that do. So why don't I take a look? I can speak with you about it, John, after we see what we come up with, and then maybe we can fashion some legislation that can be adopted that you know, addresses this issue. I think it's a good point, and it ought to be addressed.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, you know, I think we want to strike a balance between not making it too difficult for people and making it something that's also reasonable for the neighbors and reasonable for the community, so that, you know, you're not getting something good and creating something bad by doing it.
Interestingly, New York State, we're getting a new building code this year. They do it every X number of years, and this is the first year they're now addressing them. Now, I didn't get the code yet. We only get little drips and drabs, but they are addressing it, and they're starting to see a little bit of concern on some of the roofs with the extra loads on them to make sure that they can handle them. You know, maybe an older house, they may question it and may say, you know, this house is 35 years old. Maybe we don't want to put it up here because they have rafters that are only 2x6s or something. So I figure maybe we can jump the gun and just keep us up to date with it.
Yeah, the other thing I can do is our other associate who you know actually worked with John Nolan at the Pace Law Center, so she may be aware of it. She better look at it also. So we'll check it out.
Okay, great.
Great.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much. That's it for that.
Next.
The next topic was, it's actually called the Rapid Entry System Law, also known as the Knox Box Law. I went out on a call one day with the Briarcliff Fire Department, and I was talking with the chief, and he expressed his frustrations to me about some of the automatic alarms that they go to up on North State Road. They cover that area. The village like Old Albany Post is done through the village, the businesses there. And he said that it's not unusual for them to get a call and they have to either break in the door or smash in the windows to gain access. And you know, that poses an issue for the safety of the first responders. It's time consuming, it's expensive, there's security issues, et cetera, et cetera. When I was the director of code enforcement in the village, I had this law passed called the Rapid Entry System Law, but we call it Knox box because that's the most commonly used box that is involved in this. What it is a box that would be placed on all commercial buildings and all multiple residences of 3 families or more. And it's a box that's placed up where the fire department wants it, generally up high enough where you can't just grab it. And inside of it are sets of keys to gain access to the building, to get to all the mechanical rooms, elevator rooms, sprinkler systems, any locked egress pathways that they have to get through, so they don't have to bust down any doors, and they don't have to waste time trying to get in if somebody's stuck somewhere or whatever the case may be. Quite a few communities have this, quite a few. It's a very successful law. The first responders love it. As I said, we did it in the village of Ossining when I was there. It's a huge hit there. They use the Knox box system, and since the village uses it and they cover half of our territory, it would just make sense for us to have it go into the rest of the area with Knox box. And I already asked the Briarcliff chief, and he thought that system was a good one. Now, how secure are these systems? Well, it's one key that can unlock any one of these boxes. That key is placed in the fire chief's vehicle in a box that's welded, a safe, that's welded into the fire chief vehicle. And they have the access through there only. So these are not keys that are floating around. It's in a locked box that's welded into the vehicle. So it's pretty secure. I've really not heard of any major problems of people getting in and breaking these boxes open and gaining access. I think it's a good law. I gave you a rough draft of it. I did have one other section that I wanted to put in it, which I would, if you were in favor of it, as I forwarded it to council to clean up my mess, they would add it. And the only thing I added into here was I made a section 11 in section 1, number 11, where the property owner shall be responsible for keeping all information, keys, labels, and other required equipment and documentation in the lockbox current. Because we certainly don't want somebody opening the box and find out they changed the key 2 years ago. So I think it's a good law. I hope the board will consider it. The first responders are overwhelmingly in favor of it. I don't really see downsides to it. It's more efficient, it's more effective, it's safer, and it doesn't tie up our responders, including police, who have to stand there waiting for the property owner to arrive.
I'm looking at one of our chief first responders now in the audience, and he's smiling.
Yeah.
We do work with a lot of the fire departments
Once again,
who use it, so. It is good.
Yeah.
I just wanted to, if people move and you have to put a new lock, that's what usually happens, they change lock. But what do you do, call the fire department again and let them?
Well, that's why I want section 11. If somebody changes a door lock, whatever the case may be, it's up to the property owner to put the new key in there. They don't even have to notify the fire department because they have to open the box and put the key in.
The new owner
How
has a
can
key?
they open the box?
Well, the property owner has a key, and then the fire department has
Well,
a key.
I put 2 up and the property owner did not
property
have
owner
a key.
to their own box. The
Oh,
fire
okay.
department only has a key to the knock box. All
Right.
the keys to the building are in the knock box.
How does the
That's-
property
it's
owner
like-
open the knock box?
The property owner has a key too.
So will the property owner's key open all knock boxes?
I don't
No, the
believe so.
property owner's key only opens their knock.
Right.
box.
It's-
Okay, I'm just asking.
It's
'cause
like a
No,
double
no.
system.
if the-
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's
okay.
a double system.
Yeah.
It's like a
so
master
it's-
key versus.
Cause
Versus
I put 2 of
regular
these
key.
things up and the owner does not have a key to them.
I think there's different systems that we would decide on what we wanted. If we wanted a system where the property owner did not even have access, then
Yeah,
we could
but
certainly go
that's
with
the
that
kind-
system.
that's
It's
the
something we would discuss, but I wanted to present this package to you at the beginning and just get your thoughts on it before we went any further.
And just who pays? That would be their property.
The property owner is responsible for paying for the installation of the Knox box, and it's a Knox box. It's a one-time fee. And it saves them a lot of money, because if you break down a glass door, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so, and then how do we stay on top of making sure that they remember to update information, keys, et cetera?
Well, I would feel that we would use the system where if the fire department can't open the door and smashes in the window, he's gonna pay for a new window and he's gonna get a violation and
Yeah.
possible fine for doing that.
Got it.
You know, we would emphasize all this as we went. What we do is we have the fire department pick the location where they want this box. So it's not just me doing it. The fire department will go out there with the gentleman or the lady and say, this is where we want it, install it right here. And then when they're satisfied, I'll go out and make a final check. This also includes the connections to the sprinkler system. It's not unusual when I'm doing a fire inspection to find a bird's nest in there, or it's packed with chewing gum, or whatever the case may be. And you know, I was a fireman for a long time, and the worst thing you can do is shoot a bird's nest into the sprinkler system. It doesn't work. So we want to put locks on those as well, because people steal the caps for souvenirs, I guess. And they would include putting locks on those that the fire department would have access to.
Yeah, I just want to say, at IFCA, we own 13 buildings in the village of Ossining, so all of them have Knox boxes. I wouldn't really imagine not having one, because it really saves enormous amount of time, and in a life-saving situation, it is, I absolutely agree that the onus should be, because we change our keys all the time, and we have to, you know, the onus has to be on the owner to maintain those changes, and they should be fined. And I'm gonna check and make sure it's up to date tomorrow, but
Let me get that
they should be,
information right now.
you know, but it's a huge life-saving fact. I mean, it's huge. So
You know, I did,
it's very supportive.
as part of my fire inspection, one of the requirements would be, let me see you open the box and show me the keys that are in it. When we go through the building, let's use those keys and see how they open the doors.
Yeah, I think that's a
Also-
really good idea.
Yeah, also, I mean, it would seem like it would be helpful to maintain an inventory of the Knox boxes where they are,
Oh,
you know,
no, we'd
which
have a list
businesses
of
have that,
everything.
right? A
Yeah,
list of
no, we would have
Right.
everything, and then we would compile it and give it to the first responders as well.
How many properties we talking?
All of North State Road. And then there's just a few businesses on Old Albany Post, so we're probably looking at a grand total of less than 50 buildings.
And what's the approximate cost to the business?
I'm gonna say, ballparking this somewhere between like $300 and $600, one-time fee, as opposed to getting your door broken down a couple of times a month or a year.
It does seem like money well spent.
I think it is, and I don't know if insurance gives them anything, I can't say, but it's certainly something that they can investigate.
So,
Yeah.
general consensus, is there anybody who thinks that this is not a good idea? I'm just out of curiosity.
I think
No?
it's a good
I
idea.
think it's a good idea too.
What I could do is forward it over to you, and you can clean it all up and take a look at it. And see
Yeah,
what
but
you
in a
think.
Word document and add whatever.
Yeah,
you
I'll
want.
add what I want, and we'll shoot it over to you in an email.
Okay, we'll put it together.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
I guess you wanted me to talk a little bit about what we do.
Give us a little update. This is part
I
of
had a big presentation I
I
did
know.
that time.
a series of
yeah.
updates that we're going to hopefully be hearing from all of our department heads.
All right.
Kicking it off.
Well, I'll just tell you, give you a rough idea of what we've been doing from January to April for the 4 months. Just a breakdown of the activity we've done. We've issued out on permits 133 building, plumbing, electric permits, 366 alarm permit renewals, 13 tree removals, 45 searches and foils, for 557 permits that we've issued in the last 4 months for about $33,000 in revenues. For inspections, we've done 85 building permits. We've done 22 of the 29 accessory apartments, 13 miscellaneous inspections, predates that people just come up with ideas for us to visit them, 21 fire inspections, and we've also handled 24 complaints for 165 inspections. I haven't included in there the meetings we hold with architects, real estate agents, homeowners, complainants, lawyers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and the amount it takes for us to do the plan review for the permits. And of course, as you know, we also handle the planning board scheduling, the minutes, the dissemination of material. And on that note, just to mention to you, we sent out in the first 4 months 846 public notices, public meeting notices. That's quite a bit. We spent over $400 alone just in postage, not factoring in the envelopes, the letters, and the amount of time it takes to fold every one of these, stuff them, and get them out. It's very time consuming, and what I wanted to recommend to the board, and I kind of ran it by council while we were sitting in the hallway, quite a few municipalities have the applicant pay for all of this. All we do is print them out mailing labels, and then we hand them to them, and they're responsible for doing it. And then I believe they'll get a notarized statement and possibly give us the receipt for the mailings to show that they mailed this. And it might save us money, time, and effort, something I was hoping that you would want to consider.
As part of our work session agenda, fantastic. I absolutely want to consider it. Anybody else? Think about that? I mean, I think that the whole objective is for the notification, the burden notification is to be on the applicant. I mean, I thought that was the point. You know, in most cases of why you're doing this is to say not just the town is notifying, but the applicant is notifying that we're considering, you know, we have these proposed, whatever it is that they're proposing, or whichever board they're proposing it before, and they need to let the neighbors know so that the neighbors have an opportunity to weigh in. And that's, I believe, what the notifications are for, and that's the objective of the changes in the local laws, to give additional notification to a wider distance of neighbors, so that more people have an opportunity to know what's going to happen in their community, in their neighborhood, in their backyard.
Right.
So how many for each project, how many people would be notified?
I just happen to have that.
Okay.
For the Park Knolls, we sent out 420. The Butler subdivision, 130. Bethany Arts, 122. And Zelensky, which was just a shed, 60. We also sent out 64 for G Piano and another 50 for artists. So that was quite a bit. You know, we have a lot of big projects going into planning, and a lot of notifications that we have to make, because we have to do it within the 500-foot radius now. Thank God we have that municipal program. We can punch out the locations rather quickly. It's just the rest of it that takes quite a bit of time now.
And we'll provide the applicant with the addresses.
Right, we'll give them the mailing labels, and then they pick up everything else. They can hire somebody to spend the number of hours that we spend right now doing all of this. It's quite a bit when you look at all these, how much time is spent doing this.
I mean, obviously it would be a lot less time if it's just per applicant, because it's when you're doing it for all of
Exactly
the
right.
applicants, it's a lot more.
Exactly right.
Yeah, I actually, as John mentioned, we were talking about it on the hall before the meeting, and I was actually surprised to hear that it was done in-house, because just about every municipality that I can think of, whether I represent them or I represent applicants, they make the applicants do the mailings. And in fact, most of them don't even provide the labels. Most of them make you go to the assessor's office, figure out what the distance is, and get the list yourself. So even providing the list and the labels is a big time saver for an applicant. But I can tell you, because we do them sometimes in our office for clients, it takes a lot of time. And you know, if it's a burden that just about every other municipality that I know of puts on the applicants, and I don't think that it's a big deal for the individual applicant to do.
I agree.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll put together something with us. We'll meet and figure out the procedure for us to follow, and we'll gladly implement it.
And thank you for
Yeah,
being
well,
very
I think we're
proactive.
probably
Well,
gonna have to,
you know-
excuse me, John, I think we're probably gonna have to do a local law to
Okay.
change whatever the regulations are.
I'll leave that.
So why don't we talk about, you know, what you think, or send me some notes on what you think it should be,
Sure.
whether it should be by certified mail, or provide an affidavit, or both. I mean, people do it different ways.
Right.
And then we can do a quick
What I'll do is
local
I'll
law.
look at some municipalities and get a feel for this and see which one seems the most effective for our
Okay.
purposes. Sounds good.
But it definitely defines it in our local law. I should know this, but I have that we have to do it right now. If that's what it says, or does it leave
I
it
don't,
a question?
I
It just
can't
says
answer.
it must be done.
Must be done. I
Must be
think.
Oh,
done.
really?
So, yeah, maybe before we say that we have to adopt a new law, we
Mhm.
might want to evaluate if we can,
We can just do it by internal procedure. Okay, sure.
Okay.
Just check.
We'll check it. You can let me know on that. So
Okay,
I'll
yeah.
yield to
Again,
you.
the first I heard of it was in the hall this afternoon.
I know, we were waiting on the stairs there.
No. Are you done? Yeah, can I give an update quickly on the signs? As long as we're
Sure.
talking about the
Okay.
notification
oh, yeah.
thing. So the building department staff actually brought to our attention, part of the notification law was to put signs on properties that were coming in front of the planning and zoning boards, so that people who live in the neighborhood and might be just outside of the notification range where they might get a mailer, might drive past and see it and then be interested. So we've been on the phone back and forth with 2 different sign companies trying to work out what exactly we want these signs to look like. And I think we finally come to consensus that they're gonna be disposable signs. Which we were kind of throwing around the idea of having a metal sign that would get changed, but that's sort of a little bit too clunky, I think. So we are gonna go with the disposable signs, and those are gonna be at the cost of the applicant. And we're also gonna require them to confirm for John that they were in place and visible for a certain amount of time before the hearing or before the action from the board.
And I'll cruise the town anyway, so, you know, I'll be looking for them as well. So
Is
it'll
there-
be a double thing.
Is there a project size limit? It's not gonna, future home of, you know, the Davis family or something. There's,
No,
I mean,
it's
for like a real development.
Anything that goes before zoning or planning will automatically be required to have these signs placed on the property.
Okay, so that would be anybody putting up a house or a shed.
House, shed, or you just need a variance because you want to put a shed that's too close to the property line, that's where you would need it. If you were just building a house and everything was in conformance, you wouldn't need to do it. But if you have a setback issue or you're near a wetland, whatever the case may be, and we have to put you into either zoning or planning, we would make you put these signs up so the public is aware of it. A lot of municipalities do it.
Okay.
That's something that was passed before.
Yeah.
Last year.
Yeah, we're just fine tuning it now and just ordering the right equipment.
And do you wanna talk about the escrow account suggestion?
I just need guidance on escrow for the properties that were going from zoning to planning for seeker. We don't know what the fee will be now. Normally, the fee is the escrow is $5,000. And is that what we're going to do if somebody's coming in for, you know, a secret thing on maybe an unlisted action, and they're coming to the zoning board requesting a variance, and they say, well, you gotta go to planning to make sure that, you know, we're gonna make them the lead agency for secret requirements. So you're in zoning for, I'm just gonna say 10-foot setback, but you might be near something that's posing an issue. Are we gonna send them there and put a $5,000 escrow on them? That's my question. We need to establish fees for some of these. I don't know if there's a fee yet for ARB, I apologize.
Nope.
All right, so we need to set all these fees for these boards that we're sending in, and that's what the board will have to decide what they wanna set.
So did you have recommendations? Did you
Well-
say you want like to do a staggered approach based on?
You know,
size
it's
of
hard for me
project?
to say because, you know, that's a good way to
Yeah.
put it, thank you. Some kind of maybe a 2-tiered system. If we have the homeowner who's putting on a deck who may have a little bit of an issue that we may have to send them to make sure the seeker is okay, and the deck's gonna run them $4,000 and we're sending them over there for a $5,000 escrow account,
Makes sense.
that might be an issue. That's to the extreme. But, you know, not everybody is a developer. We have a lot of just average homeowners who might come up with an issue. And I just want to have a system so we know what the fees are.
Well, why would they go, if somebody, let's say, needed a 10-foot variance for a deck on a house, why would they go to the planning board?
Well, for the sake of argument, just throwing this out there, maybe they want 10-foot variance, but their next door neighbor has a wetland on his property, and that 10-foot variance is going to put him 3 feet into the 100-foot buffer zone. So he's got to go to the zoning board, and then he's going to have to go talk to planning. And do we charge him the $5,000 escrow to go over there to talk about this, where, well, I'm only going to put 4 footings in the ground, the deck is up in the air, you know, that's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Whatever the board decides is fine, but we need to get these fee structures in place as to whatever it is that we want to do.
Well, the other thing with escrow is you can always ask for additional payments. So rather than burdening somebody,
Right.
again, I think the idea of a 2-tier where you have a smaller escrow for a smaller project
Right.
to start, and then if for some reason it becomes more complex
Right.
and you need more consultants on it, then you can ask for an
I
increase in
agree.
the escrow.
Yeah, I think the way our law is written now, it's black and white. It's $5,000, period. But the system you just described and Manny described is perfect.
Now, was it a law or was it just in the fee schedule?
I think it's, again, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I thought it was in the law saying you have to adhere to the fee schedule. These aren't in the fee schedule yet, so I don't know if it's just a matter of modifying the fee schedule.
Yeah, I think it's a
You don't need to
question of
do-
modifying the fee schedule.
Yeah, I don't think you have to go anything past that.
Yeah.
So would you say $2,000 maybe
Well,
for a
I
residential
think it's
property?
something we have to talk about a little bit, to see exactly,
Okay.
I think we should talk about it.
Okay.
You guys have spent a lot of time.
I know.
Again, I think it would be good to evaluate what kind of projects have come before, what size projects, and then try to make a determination based on that, and what's reasonable. How
I
much
wish
time
to
it
get
may take.
Kathy, my partner sits with the planning board. involved.
Right, I'd like to talk to them and just go over what some of the fees are involved in it,
Sure.
to see what we come up with, that, what we think an action would take. Would it be one meeting maybe?
Right, and again, I think if it looks like it's something small, there's no reason to burden somebody by having them put up a lot of money initially. If it turns out that it's gonna be more, then you can always have them put more money into
Sounds good.
And you mentioned about the Zika virus, I'm not really up on it, but the only thing I want to tell the public or you, the board, is that as far as trying to prevent it, to treat it the same way we did with West Nile. Don't have any stagnating water on your property, don't have anything that collects water. I do see these things. I saw it the other day and I stopped and I saw a big puddle. I said, you gotta clean it up. You know, the weather's turning. When it starts getting warm, this stagnating water is gonna pose an issue to us. So just please be careful, everybody, if you have stagnating water, anything that'll collect water, again, it's a tire, a bird feeder that nobody uses anymore, anything that collects water, you have to be aware that it's breeding grounds for mosquitoes. And we'll come out and see you.
Thank you. And there have been some questions again about North State Road, some new developments there about some of the, not wetlands, but what are the drainage?
That new pond, that new drainage pond that you said had to have so much,
Robin Rinaldi.
Retention or detention?
Retention or detention.
Yeah, our
right.
retention ponds. Our engineer went out there and he said everything was functioning properly. I don't know what to say. He said it's functioning the way it's supposed to be functioning. I'm keeping an eye on it. We have quite a few retention ponds in the town, and we've never had an issue with any of them. This project seems to have generated a lot of issues, and we try to keep an eye on them. If it's a valid issue, we address it. I will watch it as the weather gets warmer, and I'll see if there's any stagnating water. If there is, then they have to maybe put something in there, like a little pump, to just put a ripple in the water like they do at the park, and just keep the water so it doesn't stagnate. But we haven't had an issue with any other property, and this developer has developed a couple of these properties, and we haven't had issues with them. But we will be keeping an eye on it. We are aware of it.
The other thing I wanted to mention that I've heard from some of the local residents who were complaining about that particular issue was that they were hearing frogs. And they were complaining about the sound of the frogs, which I thought was interesting. And the reason I think it's interesting is because if you hear frogs, that means that the frogs are eating the mosquitoes.
That's right.
You want the frogs in there to eat the mosquitoes, and that actually probably means that it's not stagnant.
Yeah.
That's at least what our engineer told us. So I just wanted to mention that, right?
And interestingly, across the street where there's another proposed project, the people are complaining, if you build this project, you're gonna kill the frogs. So maybe we can ship them from one place to another. I don't know what to tell you
We're
there.
gonna have to work on that. But yeah, anyways, so frogs are good for Zika virus. I'll just say that much. The other thing I didn't know if we wanted to talk a little bit about, we also had some local communication about people putting their trash or furniture out in advance of what the pickup day. We do hire out for our trash pickup, our recycling pickup, but one of the things that they have done in other communities is they've used these oops stickers to go out and basically just make people aware that they put their stuff out too early in the village. So the village does use them. I think other villages do use them. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that a little bit. I don't know if that would really come to you. I think it would probably be more something that we'd have to talk to suburban carting about while they're going around, but.
Well, I had a very brief conversation with Maddie about it today. I think it's a great idea. I have been sent out by the highway department on quite a few of these calls, and most of the people are very, very nice. I just tell them, you made a mistake, it's got to be out the night before, you got to haul that back into your house. Most of them understand. If not, they'll receive a notice of violation from me, and that could end up paying, they could end up getting a fine of $250. So kind of like when I talk, well, it's not worth it, just pull it in. But I like the idea of the stickers, because most of the time when I do go to the houses, they're not home, and we try to reach them then by phone, and seeing if we can communicate that way. The stickers might be a valuable thing. It'd be great, we get a lot of calls from the highway department about things that they see, and it wouldn't be a bad idea for them to just walk up to the door and put the sticker on it. That might be helpful.
Thank you. No, not yet. Okay, I'm
I just heard something.
trying. Yeah,
Do that again.
yeah, I'm hearing this.
No voices?
I don't know.
Only
No
He's not
voices.
hearing it in his.
Not getting it there.
Okay, carry on.
Sorry. So yeah, I mean, well, it's interesting that you should say that, because I was trying to look up some images for OOP stickers before this meeting, and they do have sort of a multiple list. You know, it's an OOPS at the top, and then you shouldn't have put this out, or you have too much left out, and you're not within the requirements, or you didn't bundle whatever properly. I know in the village you have to bundle your sticks, and so there are different things that you could check off. It's actually like a checkbox. So maybe we could look at that, figure out what we want to put on it, and then order some of these stickers and see how that goes, if that's something that would be valuable, that you believe would be valuable.
Well, my own feeling is I think that it's a little more powerful if I write something on it.
Okay.
Instead of just doing a checkbox, I go, I found this on your property, you need to do this, and you need to do it by this date. We'll be re-inspecting this tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.
Okay.
It's just a thought,
Okay.
I find
You
that
have
it
your
works better
design?
if I give them a time frame, the fact that I saw it, what I saw, and then I'll be back.
Okay.
As
I mean, if
Alma
you wanna come up with that design that's suggested design and communicate with our office, that would be great.
Me?
Mr. Hamilton. Yeah, and I did actually find, just since we were talking about Zika, the 5 key communication messages for Zika. Zika infection during pregnancy is linked to birth defects. Pregnant women should not travel to areas with active Zika virus transmission. Zika is primarily spread through the bite of an infected Aedes species mosquito. The best way to prevent Zika is to prevent mosquito bites. Most people infected with Zika don't even know they have it. People usually don't get sick enough to go to the hospital, and they very rarely die of Zika. See a healthcare provider if you develop a fever, rash, joint pain, or reddish eyes during a trip or within 2 weeks after traveling to a place with Zika, or if you are pregnant and have had sexual contact with someone who has traveled. And those are the 5 main key communication points. There is, the CDC has a toolkit and has given us a microsite that they've suggested that we embed in our own website, so we're going to look into that, and hopefully we'll have some information posted on the Town of Ossining website very soon. Anything else from you? Fantastic, we thank you
Thank you
very
for
much.
your time.
Anybody else have a
Thank you.
question before we lose John?
I would just ask John not to come back and give me more things to do for a while.
From the government, we're here to help you.
Okay, thank you so much,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Bye-bye now.
Tell John he can stay for that.
Oh yeah, you can stay if you like, feel free to stay.
I was gonna go look at the artwork.
Okay,
We have 2 more fees.
2 more
That-
fees,
yeah,
okay, that's right, I
that
was just
we
looking
need
at
to
my agenda here.
So one of the fees actually also came from a member of John's staff. Right now, we charge, if an applicant believes that they might wanna come in front of the planning board and they just sort of wanna get a feel for what they're gonna have to do to prepare for their first planning board meeting, we charge them $350, which is supposed to cover the cost of having an attorney in the room, having the planner in the room, having the engineer in the room. Well, we've noticed $350 is not really cutting it. It's not able to cover what we then have to pay the consultants. So we talked about what it would actually take, and then we backed down a little bit from that, so as not to scare people away from coming into the process. So they've asked that that fee be changed from $350 to $500.
By the way, that's exactly what another municipality we do work for charges for a preliminary kind of a conference.
Sounds good, I think we're splitting the difference in terms of what we're asking applicants to pay and what we're chipping in, which is different than what we had done in the past. Anybody?
Let's try it and see how it goes.
Okay.
Okay. And then you also have a memo in your packet, it's about a month old now, from Pete Connolly at Dale Cemetery. And this is about the indigent burials. So if someone needs to be buried in Dale Cemetery, there's no deed, they keep the information in the clerk's office. There's a designated section in Dale Cemetery for the social services clients. And so Mr. Connolly said that they've been currently charging $400, but he wanted to increase it. We had actually found out that before Pete's time, they were charging $600. So Pete had recommended $525, but we think that we just need to document the fact that we've been charging $600 and actually put that into the fee schedule at $600.
And that's what we were charging.
This might be working.
Okay. Are we working? Yeah.
Is it working?
Sounds
It's working.
Oh,
Yeah.
God, okay.
Are they all working?
It seems like
Six
it.
of them?
This one is,
Yeah.
right?
It is, but I turned it off.
Right,
Yeah.
so talking,
I don't
Yeah.
think this one's working.
Okay.
You got it on? Oh, yeah.
It's on? Yeah.
It's on from the red button.
Okay.
red button
Yeah,
should be
yeah,
up.
It's on.
Yeah.
It's on.
Yeah, it's on.
It's on and working. Okay. I mean, I think we should stick with 600 just because that's what we were charging in the past. So I think if anybody has any issues with that, let us know. Otherwise, I think it's a fee that is split between I think the funeral home.
Funeral home has some piece of it.
Right, they
Yeah.
get some of it and then they give us some of it, pretty much. So it seemed like that was reasonable if that's what we've been charging in the past. So if everybody's okay with that, do we have to do anything?
Yeah, we're gonna have a resolution, or 2 resolutions, as a matter of fact, next week to sort of memorialize that, and then it'll be changed in the fee schedule.
We might have 1,000 resolutions after,
Yeah.
see what's done.
This, now, I don't see 600, it says 550 here.
It did say that, but then we had a conversation with our previous cemetery
Okay.
director, yeah, and we were informed that we had been charging 600, which we learned after this memo.
In other words, I guess this is sort of like Boot Hill. Well, you may not call it that, but that's about basically what you're talking about, so. Like in the old West,
I guess so. You know what I'm gonna do is confuse.
No, I don't.
I just realized, okay. Say that again? Okay. Does anybody have any comments about the 600? Are you okay with going back to what we had before? Okay. All right, fantastic. And with that, unless we have anything else, I'm going to invite our chief of our ambulance company to come on up, OVAC, Mr. Nick Franzoso. And we're gonna have a brief presentation. It was briefer before I saw it.
I will try to make it brief.
Okay. At least it's comprehensive. I'll change it to comprehensive. Is that better? Okay. Comprehensive.
Yeah.
No, can Nick sit there?
Yeah. Oh,
So
He'd
it's
rather
that
use
mic's not on.
All right, ready to take this keyboard with me?
just the mouse.
Just the mouse.
Yep.
All right. So, good evening, I'm Nick Franzoso, EMS Director and Chief for the Ossining Volunteer Ambulance Corps. Was asked to come and speak a little bit about what OVAC is doing and what we do kind of for the community, both in Ossining and the surrounding area. So, Ossining is our main district that we provide service to. Everyone kind of knows what Ossining is all about. Based on the 2010 census, 37,000 residents, 15.6 square miles, 11.7 of them on land, and just under 4 in the water. So, OVAC covers both advanced life support, so paramedics on the ambulance, and basic life support for the residents of the village and town of Ossining, including the area covered by the Ossining School District, which is portions of Newcastle and Yorktown. So a little bit about what advanced life support and basic life support is. The advanced life support is a set of life-saving protocols and skills that extend the basic life support to further support. And it mainly is the adding of more advanced technology, equipment, and medications to what EMTs do. So. OVAC also has a advanced life support first response car, which primarily services Briarcliff and Croton as the primary paramedic to serve those areas, as well as Ossining as a second due paramedic. For 2015, we did just over 2,900 calls, which was our busiest year yet. The majority of those calls are in the village of Ossining, followed by the town of Ossining. The town of Newcastle has a nice small portion, and then we went mutual aid about 4%. The fly car, our first response vehicle, which is the paramedic that primarily services the Briarcliff and Croton areas, did about 38% in Briarcliff, 44% in Croton. Ossining was the 14% because they're our second due ALS unit, Advanced Life Support unit, and then mutual aid those other small portions. So OVAC is a not-for-profit volunteer ambulance corps consisting of both career and volunteer members. We've been around since 1958 and serving with Advanced Life Support since 1982. And the first response car was bought to service in 1995 to service Briarcliff and Croton. So currently, what we staff for OVAC itself in the town and village of Ossining is one ALS ambulance for the paramedic and an EMT or driver, and that's 24/7, 365. One BLS ambulance staffed in the building or staffed in the vehicle from 8 a.m. till midnight, 7 days a week. One call driver EMT, which would be responsible for a second call in the overnight hours. And then one EMS director, who's myself, who's on call 24/7. With office hours from typically 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. We also provide EMT coverage to the surrounding villages through the Mid-Hudson Ambulance District. So Croton currently receives one EMT 24/7. Sleepy Hollow is one EMT during the daytime hours. And Briarcliff, who just joined us, is 4 shifts, 4 12-hour tours per week. A lot of moving parts. So the Mid-Hudson Ambulance District, back in 2008, was formed to help sustain OVAC as the primary service provider for the town and village of Ossining. OVAC approached the town requesting some financial help. The district budget consists of the costs associated with the full-time paramedics and full-time EMTs. That full-time staff is pretty much the staffing for just one unit 24/7. All the other operating costs come from both private donation fundraisers as well as billing patient insurance companies. Call volume for kind of the last 9 years. 2007 is kind of when we started really keeping track of our call volume. There's some data missing for that fourth quarter, but as you can see, we've jumped a little less than 900 calls since 2008. So the volume is always rising. We have an integral partnership with Phelps Hospital, who provides us with some capital equipment. They've purchased just about all of our fly cars for the fly car system. They replace all of our expendables and medications on a one-for-one basis. They're a huge part of helping the community keep costs as low as possible. And Phelps also has an education department through the hospital that we send a lot of our EMTs to. Our current assets are 4 stocked ambulances, that are 2 are ALS and 2 are BLS. 2 BLS stocked fly cars. So these fly cars are utilized by the volunteer officers who live in the village and town to respond to calls as an as-needed basis, especially for emergencies that happen on the overnight hours or anything that's large, like a fire or motor vehicle accident that needs more units. We also have the 2 ALS fly cars, which primarily service Briarcliff and Croton, and then the 1 BLS fly car, which we just put into operation as of last week, which is the car that I primarily drive. So here's a picture of our building on Clinton Avenue and all of our vehicles. So currently for advanced life support equipment, this is what the paramedics get to use the most. We have 4 LifePak 12s. It's just a brand of monitor defibrillator that we carry. We're currently in the process of looking at expanding or upgrading our equipment to either LifePak 15s or Zoll. They're just 2 different providers that sell the equipment. We are currently waiting to see if we received a grant from FEMA to see about replacing those. So hopefully that's in the works. We are told that something is coming, we're just not sure what. We also have 4 video laryngoscopes, which the paramedics use to intubate patients to help with breathing. The IO drills are there for providing the paramedics the ability to provide medications through bone. And then 1 Lucas CPR device. So that's the machine that does automatic compressions on patients who are in cardiac arrest. A bunch of our personal protective equipment, which was a big thing when we came out with the Ebola scare last year. We went and invested on a lot of equipment to make sure that we were protected and that the residents were protected if we needed to respond to a call. So those are the 3M breathing hood systems, the TACAM suits, and the masks with the cartridges. We also have rescue helmets and jackets for vehicle extrications, and as of 2 years ago, we started carrying water rescue equipment, life jackets and throw ropes, which are on every unit, since we do have quite a bit of water that we help protect. Coming May this year, we have invested in some ballistic vests, which, again, to help protect the providers. You really never know what's happening, especially in this day and age. You can see all over the news in areas that you don't suspect there to be a problem, there is a problem. So we've taken necessary steps to protect us as responders. We have also invested in an electronic patient care reporting system, which is the system that we use to provide a lot of our statistics and data. Healthcare is an ever-changing industry where those statistics and data improve the way we provide our patient care. The EPCR system we use is called ESO Solutions. It's pretty much any box or checkbox that you could put information in, we could pull data on, which is very helpful for any way that anyone has questions about the way we do things. And those are from response times to level of care, patient age to the clinician impression. And then all of our data is reviewed weekly to allow for quality improvement. And this is just one of the samples from our first quarter 2016 patient age breakdown. You can see that the majority of our calls are for really start picking up in the 40 to 50, 50 to 60 is where the largest number is, well, followed by 80 to 90. Some of these are repeat patients, so it's not just one patient for each of these. Some of them might be 2 or 3 times that we've gone there. And then calls where there's no age known, those are more or less calls where we don't actually get to a patient and we're canceled before we get there. So, some of our response times, the patient care reports help us with. Our average response time is between 6 and 7 minutes, 86% of the time, and this is from 2013 all the way through the first quarter of 2016. So 94.5, under 9 minutes. So this is just a time of day. You see the majority of our calls are during the daytime hours. They really start picking up now between 6 and 7 and go right on through till midnight. Some of our personnel, we have 4 full-time paramedics, 20 per diem paramedics. The majority of our per diem paramedics and full-time paramedics have a lot of experience, 15 years experience on average. They come from a lot of diverse backgrounds. A lot of the paramedics are police officers outside of Ossining, and we have 1 registered nurse. 4 full-time EMTs, 36 per diem EMTs, 14 volunteer EMTs, and 30 volunteer CPR certified aiders and drivers. Our board of directors is responsible for our financial soundness. EMS director oversees all operations, ensuring agency readiness. We have 3 lieutenants who assist with the daily operations and 3 paramedic supervisors. Coming up in 2 weeks is the initiative for EMS to be kind of recognized throughout the country. EMS Week is May 15th through 21st. This year's kind of slogan is called "To Care," so that's why this is here. A few things that most people don't really recognize the Star of Life represents. The 6 points of the STAR: detection, reporting, response, on-scene care, care in transit, and transfer to definitive care. We have a lot of training opportunities coming up during EMS Week. We try to really put ourselves kind of out there to the community, both EMS and non-EMS, to offer a bunch of classes that we could bring more people into our agency, kind of as an open house type deal, but also have a lot of different classes that we could offer to make sure everyone's staying up to date on their training. We hope that anyone feels free. I think you're going to post this on the website maybe. So if anyone wants to stop in during any of the training activities, we will be there to show people around the building, and kind of you can see what we do and kind of what training we go through. And all of these classes are being held at our building on 8 Clinton Avenue. Oops. Too fast. There you go. So feel free to stop in. Does anyone have any questions? Try to run through it fast.
Do you give continuing education credit for your training courses?
We do. We offer it out for CMEs, so yeah, the continuing medication education training. So. Great.
Thank you.
That was
Enjoy your
incredible.
Thank you very much.
And I just wanted to say, sorry. Just wanted to say thank you so much to Nick for coming tonight, and I've just been so impressed with all that you do. You have been an amazing resource for everybody in Ossining and beyond, and the attention that you put to collection of data is, I think, something that you really brought us up into the new century, and it's been a great tool to evaluate how we're doing. And also from my first Mid-Hudson Ambulance District meeting, I saw that you have been actively working to improve those statistics, having those statistics, knowing what your response times are, knowing how you do with those responses, and having the good feedback also, and relationship with Phelps has, I think, just added to the entire, raised the entire ship for everybody, and that really, helps for you guys to do your job best and to save lives, which is what you're there for. I know you provide a lot more than just life-saving. It's not necessarily life-saving every day. It's also hand-holding, social services, redirection, lots of different things that you do all the time. And I'm personally just so grateful that for you and for your whole team, and for all the volunteers as well. So thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you.
And I'm not sure if anybody else wanted to add anything to that.
What she said.
Yeah, that, and plus, I can't remember his name right now. He was in an accident?
Sam.
How is he?
He is improving.
He is still.
He is disabled.
Still
but he is moving to a private facility so he can have 24-hour care outside of an assisted living facility. So.
Okay.
Has a long road ahead of him, but he's made great progress. Without a few people who have really stuck by him, and mainly 2 of our paramedics that work with us and with him for as long as they've known him. If it wasn't for them, he'd be in much worse shape. So, we're very lucky to have them to still be with us, and to that they're still caring for Sam. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Okay. Well, thanks again, and we really appreciate the time and the great presentation, and really, you guys do so much, so thanks so much. And happy EMS week, and that's why we wanted you to come talk to us tonight. I had forgotten about that, and that was supposed to be my lead-in, so thanks so much.
No problem. Have a good night.
Good night.
What's going on outside?
I think it's a parade for Nick.
Oh, me?
Not really. It's like, what kind of truck?
All right. Okay, so I think we're going directly from our work session into our special meeting. Is that right, or am I skipping something?
Oh, we're not done yet.
We're not done yet. Yeah, I know, I'm reading that, but for some reason I thought that was part of our regular meeting. So, okay. So next we're going to talk about our local laws to do the final review of the local laws that we had been talking about with regard to SECRA and our Type 1 list. The local law numbers have changed, so we're now talking about local law number 4 and local law number 5. And I am going to once again turn it over to our council. Either one of you, I know Christy, Tom, and Donna has done a lot of work on this, but obviously, Steve, if you want to comment, go ahead.
Yeah, basically, you have an existing environmental law that was permitted under the original SECRA regulations, State Environmental Quality Review Act regulations, and adopted not long after. However, in the early 1990s, those regulations were substantially modified, but your regulations were not. And when we came on board, we reviewed that, and we found that a lot of it does not comply with the current regulations. In addition, we also found out that apparently nobody particularly looked at them, that they followed the state regulations. So we suggested repealing that law, and your Environmental Advisory Committee had wanted some additional provisions reinserted that do comply with the current regulations. So we drafted a local law repealing that local law, and then a second local law that would adopt those regulations that the EAC recommended. You have a more recent review then from the EAC that was sent in early April. And that had two suggestions. One dealt with single-family homes. And the suggestion, again, doesn't really comply with state law, because state law says that anything you do on a single-family, two-family, or three-family home is a Type 2 action, which means it doesn't require any review. And you can't locally make something that's a Type 2 action anything else. It's a Type 2 action, end of story. So we can't make that change. The other change they talked about was making something that is that uses 50,000 gallons a year or more, of water to be something, water a day, 50,000 gallons of water a day or more as a Type 1 action, which was included in the draft. But they've now come back and said, well, maybe 50,000 gallons is too much, maybe it should be a lower amount. Fact of the matter is that the state regulations talk about something being a Type 1 action if it's 2 million gallons a day, so you're already way below any requirement that the state has. And in addition to that, there's really nothing particularly magical about a Type 1 action, because if it's an unlisted action and it has an environmental impact, you still have to do an environmental impact statement. So I don't know whether this accomplishes anything. I would suggest, just because you have a law in the books that really doesn't comply with state law, that you move forward and adopt these two laws as drafted. And if it's determined at a later time that 50,000 gallons a day is too high and you want a lower trigger, you can always make that change.
Sounds reasonable, and I think the planning board also weighed in. We'd asked them, and as well as the county weighed in on all of these. The county said they really had nothing to say about it. They had no comment.
Right, and your planning board essentially said they thought it was a good idea.
Right. So just for all of that, you know, I don't know if anybody wants to talk about the 50,000 gallons. I think that Steve's suggestion is reasonable, that we adopt it with the new laws with 50,000 gallon being the trigger, and then if we find out that it's not sufficient, we can go back and look again.
Anybody know an example of something that would, I mean, do we know what we're talking about?
50,000, I don't know. That
Small
we have
business? I mean, what do we, what could be
Any,
using
laundry
50?
or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly don't know, but again, when you fill out an environmental assessment form, whether it's unlisted or not, they ask about things like water usage and things of that nature. If there's something that the board that's reviewing this thinks could potentially, because of the particular location or whatever, may have some additional impacts, they can require that the applicant address those impacts. It doesn't just automatically get forgotten. So I don't know, honestly, when the state, which has a lot more resources than you do, says 2 million gallons a day is the trigger for type 1, and you're down to 50,000 gallons a day, I don't know how much lower you can go and what it would really do. And again, if somebody uses 5,000 gallons a day, if somebody thinks it's an issue, they can raise that issue before the planning board or whoever does it, and then they would have to look at it under seeker to see if it has an impact at that particular location. So again, as you said, there's nothing magical about making it a type 1. It doesn't prevent a board that's giving an approval from looking at the issue if somebody thinks it's a real issue.
Well, what could use 50,000? Who could use 50,000?
I honestly don't know. I mean, you know,
How would
my
you be
kids
able
when
to-
they were teenagers probably did,
Well, how would you be able to measure if you don't, you know, if none of us know what we're looking for? That's what I guess I'm saying.
Probably by the water bill.
No, but he's saying if
Yeah,
we don't
yeah.
know, we don't know what kind of thing we're talking about, so we don't know if there's a substantial reason to, can I have that?
Maybe.
I mean, I guess we
I'm
could
not
go
talking
back.
on
I guess we could go back and ask
Maybe
our,
like Sing Sing or something like that.
well,
I'm thinking
they
ask
are,
our
they,
God,
we could ask
Yeah.
our planning department if they have any
no,
suggestions.
I think we're just trying to figure out in a vacuum, and that's just
Yeah.
hard, so now, we're not saying it's not good, but, and I guess my
Yeah,
clarification
right.
question is, this is about making 50,000 gallons a day according, a type
One.
2, a type
One.
1?
On the type 1 list that would trigger an EIS.
But, so the difference is that having it as a type 1 triggers an EIS versus a type 2, which could be considered to trigger an EIS if they so deem, but does not trigger it.
Right.
Okay,
So that's not actually the case.
that's not
Sorry.
the trigger. Okay, well, that's why I asked, I was trying to figure.
No, and I think Steve was alluding to this before. If something's a type 1 action, there's a presumption. There's a greater likelihood that it will have an impact, the potential for a significant adverse impact that will require an environmental impact statement. It's not automatic.
Right.
It's not a guarantee, which is what Steve was saying. It's, you know, you make something a type 1, okay, there's this presumption, but, you know, if something's unlisted, you still go through the same, you could still go through the same analysis, and you could end up determining that there's still the same potential for an environmental impact that there would be for a type 1 action that would require the completion of an environmental impact statement. You never do an environmental impact statement or any further environmental review for the type 2 actions. And that's the issue that we had with some of the suggestions made by the EAC, is that they were trying to pull out
Things
of
from
what
type
those
2 and
type
type
2 issues, those type 2 lists
Sorry.
into the unlisted, which would potentially have the opportunity for greater level environmental review, but the DEC and the state have already said, no, these are items that we've determined will not have significant adverse environmental impacts as a matter of law, and therefore, once you determine it's a type 2 action, the analysis stops. There's no further environmental review. So some of the suggestions made by the EAC were suggestions, and we used it in the example of single family homes, because there are type 2 actions for the construction or renovation of a 1, 2, or 3 family home on an approved lot. And so, but if you say, you know, anything that's within a wetlands, that could still be a 1, 2, or 3 family development, which the state has already said is a type 2, and so you can't pull something out of that. And so that was what we were trying to reconcile with the EAC's recommendations while still being consistent with state law. And so that's what we did our best here. And it was it's already in your statute that about this 50,000 gallons per day, and the EAC seemed to think that if anything, maybe it should be a little bit lower, but how low do you really want to go? So really the EAC would probably be the ones to go back to for any sort of guidance or further thought into what they think 50,000 gallons a day actually is, and what the significance of that would be going forward.
I just want to ask if anybody has ever checked on laundromats.
Well,
That's one of the
maybe somebody,
biggest.
but maybe they.
That's one of the bigger water users around. The bigger the laundromat, the more water they use all the time, continuously.
So we should be getting it. We're not in compliance right now, right? I mean,
Right.
so
Yeah, exactly.
So my opinion, my single opinion is that we should move forward, adopt these as they are, 50,000 gallons in all, and be happy to go back to the EAC and ask them if they have any research on what the facilities are in real life that would be possible to more or less that would consider something that should be reviewed. I mean, but I definitely think that the longer we're out of compliance is a problem, so.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think, we've been working on this for 4 months now, almost 4 months now, and it seems like, we could tweak, but I don't know, I think that what we said we wanted to do was we wanted to adopt the type 1 list at the same time as we repealed the original, Chapter 85, and then, so that we would then be in compliance, and then if we need to tweak, as I mentioned before, that we can do that, moving forward if we see that there's a need. But I think, again, my recommendation is the same, that we should move forward with this now and close the, public hearings, I guess at the next meeting, and adopt the 2 new local laws.
If I remember correctly, I believe you already did close the public hearing.
Okay.
About a month ago, maybe more than that. So I don't think that's an issue any longer.
Okay, great. I think we just wanted to take this up one more time in work session because we had an additional communication from EAC after they had seen what we were proposing, so. Okay, so I think.
Just for, while I've been doing this, I haven't been playing a game online, I've been trying to find out how much water usage, okay? So I just found a site, and I don't know how accurate it is, talks about that a car wash, a high pressure application of 120 gallons of water per vehicle, assume 400 cars per day, daily usage would be 48,000 gallons. So that's a use that would use roughly 50,000 gallons a day.
Just under.
Just under.
But it would seem that a car wash would still trigger the question, potentially.
Right.
If it were in a particular area, or if water were an issue, that it would still, you could still require an EIS, right?
Absolutely.
Without it, it being
Without it
mandated on the
having to be
type
like
1.
2,000
Right,
gallons.
right,
Yes.
okay.
So again, those kinds of high use operations would probably trigger, hey, how much water are you gonna use, tell us, and then have people look at whether or not that's problematic under any circumstance.
Right.
And again, there's nothing magical about an EIS. You could just say, hey, we want a report from somebody about how much water you use. And also, every application requires that there be a communication with the village, which provides the water, to make sure that there's adequate water supply.
Absolutely.
That's an automatic thing.
Right.
So again, I'm not sure what this would be.
Okay, are we on consensus at least for moving forward next regular meeting? Okay, fantastic. Okay, next, we are going to do a review of our elected and appointed officials' calendars for 2016. Ms. Hatch, would you like to take us through this?
Sure.
Thank you.
Our confidential secretary, Victoria, and I had the privilege of attending a seminar about this 2 weeks ago. The New York State retirement system has what's called a Pension Integrity Bureau, which takes special note of elected and appointed officials in terms of how much time you're reporting to the retirement system that will eventually calculate your pension credit. So this is a rule from probably 5 or 6 years ago. We had passed a resolution in the town, I think 2 years ago, that we had sent to the retirement system, and they rejected. Not because they didn't like the information, but because they didn't like how we'd done it. So what we need to do is at the beginning of every elected official's term, you need to start keeping a calendar of your activities. So it's not anything political, it's stuff that you're doing for your constituents, stuff that you're doing town-related business. So all of you folks who are in the retirement system have done that, along with Michael O'Connor, our town clerk, Mary Ann Roberts, our justices, and then also our confidential secretary, because she's an appointed official and that's required for them as well. So if you look at the resolution that she prepared, we are setting a standard workday for you. So if your position were to be full-time, how many hours a day would be considered a full-time workday for you? So it's a little bit different for everybody. For most of our employees here, it's 7 hours a day. For the highway superintendent, because the folks that he supervises also work 8 hours a day, his is 8. And then for the town justices, we've come up with 6. So you can see the resolution that we've worked out based on the calendars that everyone has submitted. You all have seen those calendars as well. They were sent to you in an email on Friday. You still have plenty of time to review it though, because after the town board passes this resolution, it needs to stay posted in a public place for a period of 30 days so that the community is able to review it as well.
So this is 7 a day for the.
Yep, so if you're looking at.
6 for town justice.
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
Yep, so if you're looking at the resolution going from left to right, it says the position, the standard workday hours, the name. Obviously when we send it to New York State, it will have the social security number, registration numbers. And then record of activities result means how many full days does that person work in a month. So obviously you'll see some that far exceed the number of working days in a month, so obviously you're not gonna get credit for as many.
So, Councilwoman Jeffries asking the question that, when this is based on when she first reported.
Correct.
In the first 3 months when she was on the town board.
Correct.
So she can't change it and adjust it as she goes, or she can?
You can. You
Well,
certainly
I
can.
guess I'm trying to reconcile what I had reported back 2 years ago versus what we're putting in as a standard, and actually I was thinking before I saw this sheet that, oh, I underreported 2 years ago. It's definitely different than what it is these days.
I agree.
Yeah. So it has gone up, but how do we reconcile what is reported versus what we are saying here as standard?
I mean, the only other thing I would say is that if you have another job, you have to be, you have to just think about, that if you're reporting to the retirement system through another job as well, you certainly don't want to be going over.
10
how
hours a
many
day.
hours.
Yeah, so 12 hours a day.
Exactly.
So
So you have to be, you have to be realistic how many hours you can actually put in. So on average, this is an average rate that you would have had reported, and does that make sense?
That's days a month.
That's days per month. So for you specifically, we calculated
Oh,
it to be 3 full days you worked for the town of Ossining in the month of, say, March. 3 full days, so 21 hours.
It was more hard.
Yeah. That maybe not back then, but things have evolved. So the question is, how do we reconcile this, or?
Well, yours is actually the only one that is not current, because like I said, the last time we had done it, they had kicked it back to us. We have a contact in where are you pointing at?
Northern, because we're on the same.
Yeah, but I'm not.
Northern's not in the retirement system.
That's what it is.
So we have a contact at the state who has been sort of walking us through this, so we could certainly give that gentleman a call and see what he recommends. And so sort of hold off on this for a bit. But as far as the other calendars, those are available for everybody's review. And if we get an answer, I'll send that to the board in an email about what we want to do about your in particular.
They did say during the Association of Towns meeting that if all of a sudden you're working a lot more hours or something happens and you're working a lot less, there is a vector to change that. So I'm sure you can find that.
I'm sure that you can also, but I also see your point in that you don't wanna pass a resolution that's then gonna lock you in for something until we pass another resolution. So, you know, I'll just get some advice from that gentleman and see how he thinks we should go forward.
What's the timing when we have to pass the resolution? Is
There isn't any timing, you know, they suggest obviously keeping calendar for the first 3 months, and then they expect that it'll take you some time to put it together. So I think what they had said was they'd like for you to pass it in the first 180 days of someone's term. So we do have a little bit of breathing room, but we don't have 3 more months for you to keep a new calendar, so.
No, but I can go back and take a look and see what it's been. And that's all, I just wanna take a look at what it really is and completely be square on what's the reality. And if that's the reality, then that's the reality, but just these past, I wouldn't think it is anymore.
Councilwoman Detroit, did you have that question also or not?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. I thought,
I'm just looking at it.
okay. All right, so is that it for them, for that topic? Okay, so next on our work session agenda, we were going to continue the discussion that was started last week about the redistribution of the mortgage reporting tax. And I'm going to ask,
I mean, we have a lot of goodies here, we have a lot of
Okay.
spreadsheets that I'm gonna start passing around.
okay, great.
So our deputy controller was kind enough to put together a spreadsheet that I believe you all have seen, which was the actuals from 2014. So I have those here that I can pass out, but again, this is something that you've seen already.
Should we, for anybody who never watched a meeting, and this is the first meeting they're watching and they don't know, or they missed the last meetings where we
Okay,
touched base?
do you wanna, okay, so the brief overview is that the, do you wanna go through the numbers? Cause
Yeah.
you were so familiar with this. and-
Yeah, sure.
Okay, okay.
So this is something that Councilwoman Jeffrey had brought up, it was certainly over a year ago.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what the timing was.
About a year ago.
Yeah, but basically talking about the way in which the mortgage recording tax is distributed as per Westchester County. So we are doing it the way that we're supposed to by the book. But Councilwoman Jeffrey had pointed out that she didn't necessarily think that the formula had a way to adapt to a community that looks like ours, which is the unincorporated area is actually a rather small portion rather than in other municipalities where it represents a larger segment of the population. So the mortgage recording tax is something that's paid to Westchester County when someone buys a property and has to obtain a mortgage in order to get that. So the money goes to Westchester County and then it comes back to us to redistribute. And so it's based on percentage of assessment. So it doesn't matter if all the houses last year were sold in the village of Briarcliff, they don't get all the money from that. It gets broken up by how much of the assessment is in the village of Ossining, how much is in the village of Briarcliff. And then as Councilwoman Jeffrey has said, the portion that the unincorporated area comprises of the total assessment should be going to the unincorporated area. So this is a conversation that's sort of been thrown around for a while, and we've been looking at the numbers. And what it looks like, you know, within a couple $1,000s here or there, is that we're talking about $80,000 for rough figures that would be coming out of town general revenue and going into the unincorporated fund revenue. So the sheet that I passed out first, those are based on actuals received in 2014. So you can see, based on those numbers, it would have been about $76,560. But those numbers have shifted a little bit, so we're talking about a number of roughly $80,000. And so when we had discussed this last week, the question was, well, what does $80,000 look like in a general fund? That's sort of what you all asked us to come back with. So I have something that you can take a look at that will just pass around. That basically shows a couple of things that would comprise roughly that number in the general fund. So I don't want to go through it line by line, but just so everybody can take sort of a minute and see. The first batch that's above the word or comes to closer to about $100,000, but you can sort of pick and choose to get yourself there.
And then, I think that on this sheet, you identified a number of different kinds of, either programs that, we could consider, eliminating, such as art and dance classes for the senior nutrition program, the Are You OK social worker, for the senior nutrition program, the part-time chauffeur, for the senior program, or a food service helper. When I say or, I mean, it was actually have to be collective of all of these things, for the most part, to get close to that, 80,000. The summer concert series, that's, I guess we took that over from the village, a few years back. The town now sponsors that. The assessor's office continuing education, a part-time, person in the clerk's office. There's a conference on one of our software systems that we use for accounts receivable, and also uses in the tax receiver's office, as well as I think the assessor's office also uses it, purchasing, etc. There's a conference for the tax office we could eliminate. Savings, potential savings from, we've been looking into if there were alternatives for our security in the courts, looking at eliminating one of the court attendants and replacing that with a court officer. So this would be savings from that. Translator services for the town court, and a part-time intermediate clerk in our town clerk. Alternately, we could eliminate a position. Right now, I think there's some salaries that are associated with some of the positions in different offices that we could consider eliminating. This doesn't include benefits that would go along with some of those positions, such as the deputy assessor, deputy town clerk, the intermediate clerk, park groundskeeper, or the assessment tax aide, a full-time chauffeur for the senior program, or the confidential secretary in the supervisor's office. Then if you add in, some of those positions also have benefits roughly equal to about 30% of the salary, so you can see how some of those positions would get us to close to that $76,000 or $80,000 mark. And then, did you want to just, there's also 2 asterisks for some of the things that are contractual.
Yeah, so basically what I did was look through the general fund and see what things are we not contractually obligated to provide, and that's how we got the list that's on the top. But if you look at the ones with the 2 asterisks, that means we have an IMA with the Village of Ossining to provide that service. So doing something differently with either that position or with that program would require us to go to the village and have a conversation about how to sort of unwind that IMA to give us some breathing room.
Well, before you go any further with this, now, none of these things were they necessary before?
Oh, I personally believe that they're all fairly necessary. I mean, that's
And why are we talking about cutting them? Just to go.
Well,
to
we're
transfer
looking at
money
what is there in our budget currently, you know, that we would have maybe some
So this is
potential to cut.
the implication of cutting or putting, cutting $80,000 a year from the town general fund.
Correct.
Okay.
And this is without the ability to raise revenue in any way?
Really,
Or
the only
I mean,
2
this is
revenues.
Everything else is under, it's at the cap?
Yeah, I mean, really the only 2 revenues that the general fund has are property taxes, and then the mortgage tax revenue is the only other sizable revenue we have. Other things come in dribs and drabs. The state aid is about $151,000, and many of the other larger revenues support directly the senior nutrition program. So that's, I mean, those are really the 2 big.
And there's no tax levy here?
What are you asking?
is there ability to, you know, raise a tax at a 0.5% a person or $5 a person in town general to cover that 80 as well?
To override the tax
Yeah,
cap,
we have to
sure.
override.
Well, that's what I'm asking, well, no, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
It would cause an override.
I think it's wasn't a 1.5 over that would take us over?
I looked at it and we talked about those numbers last week, so I don't have those right in front of me about what it would actually imply. But off the top of my head, I think a point in the general fund is about $30-something thousand, so it's about 2.5 points.
Okay, 2.5 points, so that would be, you know, that we'd have to go.
For the town general,
Correct,
which is over the entire town
right,
of Ossining.
right.
So the question is, what does that actually equal?
It's 2.5.
How much
You're talking about per household?
Yeah. I mean, what is
I think I think it's like $5.
so you're talking about,
But overriding the tax cap is the
Yes,
hurdle. It's
right,
not the
yes.
money. It's the
It has political implications if you are asking to override the tax cap.
I'm really well versed in the tax cap, but I'm just trying to figure out, I'm just figuring out the numbers, but you know, you know, we're talking about, you know, what are the implications and possibility, and it's very specific, and my question is, well, some of these things, I think there's room and movement possibly, but aside from that, I guess the question is, you know, what does that mean in terms of levies? And so what we're saying is 2.5% on the town general, which would possibly equal $5 a household, which, you know, I think is not necessarily a huge amount to change what is at this point an inequity. I mean, I understand this is hard, but it doesn't mean that it's right. You have a portion of your population that is being, and the portion of that population is the portion that this body directly governs. And they are being assessed at different ways or charged at different ways in many different ways throughout. And there's been a push to try and change these inequities in different ways on all sides. The town, we took over the fireworks that were, because that was a town thing that everybody benefited from, and nobody, you know, we're not gonna talk about what the population is versus, it's just a thing that's a town, and so the town should do it. Now we share in insurance, but, you know, there have been changes. This is one of those things that I think follows that very trajectory of trying to make a wrong thing right, which is you have different portions of your municipality that are receiving their formula and portion of funds, and the unincorporated town, which definitely contributes to that, is not receiving any portion of that. And while I understand that this looks hard, and sometimes things are hard and we can take a look, I don't necessarily believe that this is the only answer to it. But I don't think you don't do something that's right because it's hard. And
Alright, I'm sorry. I actually agree that the town outside is different than most of the other municipalities, where the town outside is more like almost like a village in our case, as opposed to a bigger encompassing agency. And I do agree that they should have their portion of the mortgage tax. However, I think that some of that can be made up by, you know, all of the villages pay a portion of their parks. I think that if the town outside paid a portion of their parks, that's normally in the general fund, that might be more of a balance, and they would get their mortgage recording tax at the proper levels, and then talk about what the fair equity would be of them supporting some of the parks. And I think that might balance back out. I don't know the numbers, I'd like to look at them, but I do think that, you know, as far as the mortgage recording tax, I'd like to see that, you know, they're different than most town outside, you know, most encompassing towns. And I think we should recognize that, but at the same time recognize that in other ways, there might be adjustments to be made in the other direction. And maybe get everything more fair.
So, before I say,
No, go ahead.
I think Karen had one.
oh yeah, go ahead, Karen.
I just wanna understand,
Your mic's off.
is it off or on?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
sorry about that. And I just wanna clarify, I'm a town outside resident, so this would directly impact me, to be transparent on that. But even as a town outside resident, I'm trying to understand the real value here of, because if we get the money and then we have to pay, then we decide, oh, well, the town's not paying for a portion of the village parks and we have to pay it back, and it's, I'm just,
It's not the village.
No, not the
The
village parks, the outside parks.
the outside parks, I'm sorry, I misspoke, but do we get to a point where, this is a wash on numbers? And I'm really concerned about making sure that, the trend in government is consolidation of budgets. So is this, I'm just not seeing the real value here. And I am concerned about jeopardizing some of these programs. I mean, yes, there's always
So
room to
am I.
cut, there's always room to do more, but these are really valuable programs that we all benefit from. So, and again, I wanna, go on the record, this is not something that's unfair and we're doing it wrong. This is legislated this way. So this is the way it's supposed to be. We're doing it the right way. I understand there's an opportunity to possibly make a change in this. There's no guarantees that we would even be successful at making that change. I just want to know if we're going to pull this chit with the state and go this distance, that we're doing it for a big enough ask. And I'm not sure I'm seeing that this is a big enough ask.
I think that the people in the unincorporated town would disagree. I think that
I want to recognize that I am from the
Okay,
unincorporated part of the town.
I think there are many people in the unincorporated town that would disagree. And I think, once again, we're talking about, I think the difference that I'm looking at is what is the right thing to do, versus what is, it's, to me, this isn't about, well, is this the best bang for the buck? I think the issue to me is, if we put 30% of particular salaries into the unincorporated town because that was the right thing to do, because some of their work is for the, and maybe we could still look at that. If we pay a certain price in water because there's a reasoning for that, if we took over as the town the fireworks because that was the right thing to do, if we lowered the amount that the unincorporated town residents pay for their recreation passes because there was a change in the island, if we did a reassessment on all properties in the town of Ossining, because they're supposed to be fair and equitable, and we hope to get this right, and there is a process and everybody should go through it. At the end of the day, to turn around and say, well, maybe this is the right thing to do, but it's really kind of hard and it's really not a bang for the buck, I think goes contrary to all of those trying to rights and changes to what Councilwoman Feldman said. I think there are ways of looking at things and as we go forward. I don't know that this is the end of the story. I
It's
think
not.
it's a
'Cause
conversation.
I don't like it at all. Cause
I
you're
just-
talking about firing people or getting rid of people and for what? This has been going on for all these years and you survived it.
That makes it right. So have the people who've been paying too many taxes
These
on their
people
houses
have nothing
before.
to do with that.
But so have all the people who supposedly were paying too much for taxes on their houses. Somehow they survived it
Now you-
before they got a reassessment that says that they should be going lower. I mean,
I think it's vastly different things, and I also want to make it really clear that what I'm not saying is that I don't think it's just an issue of doing the right thing and I happen to think getting the most money for your tax dollars is doing the right thing. So getting the biggest bang for your buck for your dollars is benefits people in the town as well as the village and
Well, the
everything else,
I
so.
mean, we as unincorporated town residents might like the $80,000 so that we can pay, you know, that can go to our police contract at 1.7 million.
Okay, but
Or
it could
maybe
go,
it can go to, but that's a bang for the buck. In fact, I would
But
say
I want
that,
an analysis on what, you know, what we're gonna have to potentially trade off for that, because I'm not saying that that's not necessarily a good thing, but again, we're not talking about a reevaluation that wasn't done, that should have been done for 44 years. What we're talking about is something that's currently legislated. It's legislated this way for a reason, and I recognize that Ossining has a smaller town inside, I get that. But this isn't something that we didn't do or hasn't been done. It's not the same as the reevaluation. It's just not. So I wanna just make sure that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because once you start going down this road and parsing everything down, at the end of the day, I don't know that we're gonna end up paying that much less or that much more in anything, because all of these things need to be done. So I'd like to hear more about Liz's proposal, because if there's a way to look at these things, I'd like to hear more about what Liz was saying.
Okay. Okay. Do you want to talk more about it? Yeah.
Alright, I'm just saying that I'd like to see the numbers. I think that each of the villages and the town outside is almost more like a village as opposed to an encompassing agent. I would like to see what the numbers would be, and if we couldn't find a way to balance, you know, to let them pay for part of the parks and see if we can't keep some of the, you know, keep the services.
So I did look into this a little bit because you had mentioned this to me, and I found out one of the things that you cannot do, for example, if, I don't know if this is what you're suggesting, but one of the things you cannot do is you cannot have the town outside assessed differently, like a different rate almost for parks. I think that, I don't know if that's exactly, or pay more for parks. I think that's what you were suggesting, but I'm not 100% sure. You couldn't do that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's sort of like, it's not as if we were sitting across the table from another municipality and we said, okay, how about you pay for this? We're negotiating with ourselves basically at that point. And you can't do an inter-fund transfer, like you can't make one fund pay the other fund for a service.
right, you can't make the
It would be the town outside fund paying the general.
But I mean, I'm not exactly sure, but I feel like what you're saying, and I think this is what you're talking about, is that we have a lot of parks, that some of the parks are under the village government, and then some of the parks are in the town general, right?
And some are in Briarcliff.
And some are in Briarcliff. And the village of Ossining, and the town outside residents, enjoy all the parks in the town, including in the two villages, but they don't pay any portion of that, like the villages do, out of the village budget that goes to the parks, and the parks, do have large budgets in the two villages. So I think what you're asking is you wanna see the budgets for what the villages are paying for their parks compared to the town, to evaluate sort of proportionally how much everybody's paying for parks. To kind of identify what is the value rate that we're getting for our parks, because that's one area that isn't, where the town outside pretty much, or unincorporated, pays probably less proportionally to all of those parks.
I think, so now that we're talking about parks, okay. So you're saying because the village of Ossining, for instance, when they pay into the town general, they're paying for town parks, yes?
And they're also paying for village parks.
And they're paying for village parks. And the unincorporated town pays into town general for town parks, but doesn't pay for village parks. Right.
No, but doesn't pay a portion for the parks in the unincorporated area. Not for the village of Ossining Parks, not for the village of Briarcliff, but for the one on Gordon Avenue
But we
and the
do
one on
because we
Runner,
pay town general.
into the town general.
But it's the same proportion as everybody else
But everybody
pays.
else
You don't
pays
pay
that
more
also.
for those parks.
So I'm saying they should pay a little more for their local park, just the way the village pays for their local park, and Briarcliff Place for their local park. And if it can't be done because of whatever legislative.
But that's a little bit that's essentially my point. So
Yeah,
we're
taking out of one and, yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I think we're taking money out of one.
But it can't always be equal. So you might take, I mean, I guess in the scenario when we don't even know that it can be done, but
Right.
if you might take 30,000 or 40,000 and be, you know, for the unincorporated pay for, in a hypothetical situation to pay for parks, but it's still 80 that's coming. So it's not paying Peter to pay Paul. And I think, I understand what you're saying. I do, but I also think if you take that train of thought, which is why would we write all these things, then why did we start doing this? Why wouldn't we look at, why did we take the fireworks? Because it was the right thing to do as a town general thing. Why did we change the cable franchise fees into the unincorporated? Because that was the way it should be and that was the right thing to do. Why did we change the IMA with the rec so that, I mean, it's about putting the things where they should be and placing it correctly. It's not about, well, does it wash? It's about where should these things lie? And I understand your point, which is we're not doing anything wrong. We're not doing anything wrong. There's a question basically as to whether or not the original interpretation of how this is actually correct. And that because we are different, it is incorrect for us. I don't disagree that some of this is hard. I just don't think it's necessarily something I mean, I think that there are ways of working through it and having conversations about what can be done. But I just think that we're asking for a wrong or an inequity to be righted. And to do that and then go ahead and forward and look at other ideas of what we can do to change that. And I think to Councilwoman Feldman, I don't know that we can do it your way, but I understand that you were looking at a way, and I think that's part of, you know, the box.
I mean, personally, I feel that the impact, if we weren't living in a world with a tax cap, I think we would be in a different situation, and I don't even think we'd think twice about it. That's what I believe, because I think, like you said, I think, you know, going back, if we were to recreate the wheel from the beginning, this is how it would have been created to begin with. It would have been created the way, you know, the suggestion with the new, you know, with the resolution from asking for the state to create legislation that would allow this to happen in our situation in Ossining. We do live in a tax cap world. We do have a budget that's very tight and relies specifically on, you know, tax revenue and mortgage recording tax. And we do need to consider what are the overall, what are the benefits for the greater good? Because while we are the government, the local government for the unincorporated part of the town, we also have fiduciary responsibility to our town general budget. Those are both our responsibilities. We don't just have a single responsibility of one or the other. We don't get to choose. We have to look at all of those as our responsibility collectively. You do too, even as somebody living in the town, unincorporated part of the town. It's your fiduciary responsibility to make sure that we're providing services for everybody. I'm just saying, well, I know, because you know, you often point out at the table that you represent the unincorporated part of the town.
We are often underrepresented and often don't have a voice.
So you say we. I just want to make that point that you say we. So as I was saying, you know, I think that as the town board that we represent.
We do.
All of these budgets, and we have to also evaluate what has the most impact and what is for the greatest good. That's what I think that we should look at. So looking at what the greatest good is, evaluating what the impacts would be for what seems like an amount of money, you know, that doesn't seem like it should be that big, has a great impact on the town general budget. So in a perfect world, like I said, we go back and recreate the wheel. We wouldn't create it this way. We wouldn't be right now having to consider making severe cuts that would negatively impact many programs, or negatively impact one or another department, or negatively impact our parks. I mean, again, I wouldn't recommend going for this legislation. I don't think the legislation is for the greater good. That's my belief. Even again, as I said, if I do believe that it is the right thing to do, in if we could have that perfect world.
Kim, what is the estimated tax benefit for the average household in the town outside if we were to?
I don't know, I mean.
Yeah, I think we
had that
kinda,
last week.
Toss this around a little bit.
40.
I thought it was 30.
Yeah, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of like $35 to $45
Annually.
annually.
And it's somewhere about and it would cost $5 a household to do it.
But
You
you
can't
would
look
need
at a
to,
household, you have to look at assessed value, and I don't
but
think
you
we
need
looked at
to,
that.
but you'd need to override the tax cap.
We could, I mean, it's not for $5 and,
Do we have a consent, I'm just curious, like, you know, there's 5 of us here, and I just would like to see what kind of feeling we have. Is there more work that we want to do? I think there is some sort of a time constraint for this year to get this legislation going. I think, I don't know, you had said something about May 13th, I don't know if that's.
no, I never said May 13th. Today's the day.
Oh,
If we're
today.
not doing it, then, I will say the legislators have already put this in their bill count. But, you know, this is the day.
So, not sure where everybody stands, but if you guys wanna weigh in the consensus, and we can decide what to do.
Well, I don't like it, and I'm not for it. So whatever way you go,
Okay.
you know where I stand.
I don't like the cuts that have to be made. I'd probably wanna see if there are different ways we could make the budgets balance. But I really am more for it than, I'd rather see. I'd rather see the town outside receive their portion, but I'm worried about all the cuts or balancing the budget. I don't wanna go over the tax cap.
I do not want to exceed the tax cap. I don't think that's in anyone's benefit. You know, we're talking, I understand in the issue of fairness, but I think also there's a fiscal practicality here. So for $40 a year, you're looking at a tremendous amount of services that, again, as a town resident, I benefit from, my community benefits from. I'm having a hard time seeing what's to be gained by doing this, and I think there's a significant amount to lose. And I say that as a person who lives in the town outside. I'm not seeing, you know, you're looking at potentially cutting, you know, we talked at length at the last meeting about how important the senior nutrition program is.
Yes.
You're definitely
Now
talking
you're
about
talking about
compromising
getting
it
rid of it.
severely. You know, again, I would, you know, I can't speak for everybody in the town. I don't want to say that this is an inconsequential sum of money, but it is, we are talking about $35 to $40 annually, and possibly cutting summer concert series, which we all benefit from. I think if you looked at it on price per concert, we're talking about a very inexpensive cost here. You're talking about a senior nutrition program. And then, you know, conversely, if you tried to do something else, you're talking about jobs that I know from reviewing the town budget, and I know from our experience working here, that we're already working at bare bones levels too. So I'm not, I think the trade-off is very great.
All right, so hearing that it seems that we don't have, I mean, I know that you're for it, obviously. Do you want to change, unless you, okay. So, it sounds to me like we do not have a consensus to move forward with this legislation. If anybody wants to make me think differently, then please speak now. Otherwise, I think that when we get to that portion of our regular meeting, that we should table that resolution. hearing no more, then I think that we are now,
I think
going to.
I just wanna say, I'm kind of disappointed in the thought process. I understand, you know, we didn't have a confidential secretary 2 years ago. That's a position that was put into the supervisor's office, and I understand that that person is valuable, but that's a cost we didn't have. You know, we've already transferred $60,000 over to the unincorporated town. We've already been paying 1.5 times on our water rate. I mean, there are a ton of things that the unincorporated town residents have been paying extra and over for years. And while I understand that this particular thing is something that's been done legally correctly, it is not the right thing, and in the context of the many different ways that those in the unincorporated town have been paying over and above for years on things, that is why this is important. I'm just gonna leave it there. I get the other side of the story. I think that there are ways to be creative, and that just thinking, you know, of course when you pull the heartstrings to say, of course we're not gonna pull the senior services, and they also receive many grants. There are ways of getting money, there are ways of recouping money, there are grant funds out there, there are different, you know, outside the box. To stop this because we don't exactly know how this is gonna work, even though that's the right thing. I've just seen so many ways that it has not been, unincorporated town often receives the backhand in ways. So I just wanna end with that. And now you can move on if you want to.
Okay. So I just want to reiterate that I think, you know, again, that we absolutely have a responsibility to look at all pieces of the puzzle. And I don't want anybody to think that we haven't looked at this very carefully and considered it. I do think that it's important that we look at what is in the best interest of the most people. So with that said, I think we are going to continue to look at some of those larger inequities to see if we can make them right, and we are working in that direction. We're going to continue to talk about water and water rates, and I think that that is going to be a much greater significance to the unincorporated part of the town. We're working very hard to correct that, and that's going to have a great impact. So I look forward to having further discussions on that in the near future.
I just want to add, I think that's the right approach. I think that we really do have to look at this on a bigger issue, because I do agree with you. There are things that have been done because that's the way they've been done. I don't necessarily think this is, you know, I think this is one issue, but there's a much bigger issue here, and I think it would be a good, and I would like to request that we really look at this in a macro sense and look at everything across the board, and then figure out what's the best way to write things so that there's really an impact, so that we're not talking about $5 here and $35 there, which may be fair, but at the end of the day is not enough of, you know, there's not, you know, a tremendous amount of money that you're talking about to have real impact. What I'd like to see is how can we make sure that people are taxed equitably and paying their fair share, and not necessarily paying over their fair share, but we can still look at ways of maximizing services. I'm not sure that this approach gets to that point, and that's really my issue. So it's not that I disagree with Councilwoman Jeffrey on the issue of fairness, it's that I want to see a bigger approach so that we can make real impact on this without necessarily having to compromise services that, again, we all benefit from, whether we're in the town outside or the village or, you know, wherever we are, we benefit from these things. So that is my position.
Okay. All right, so with that, I think we are now ready to move into our special meeting.
Councilwoman DeTore. I know you've been present all along, but.
Just in case you haven't noticed, I'm here.
Councilwoman Jeffrey,
Present.
Councilman Wiltshire,
Yeah.
Councilwoman Feldman,
Present.
and Supervisor Levenberg.
Here.
Okay, we've already done the pledge and announcements. Do we have any public comment on any agenda items?
If the mortgage recording tax is not on the agenda, then you don't wanna hear what I have to say.
It is on the agenda. We have not yet tabled it. We will when we get there, but we haven't tabled it. So if you want to make a comment
Thank
on
you.
it,
Yeah.
please come on up.
We encourage you to come up, Jerry.
Thank you. As Kim said before, it's about equity. And we have a history in this town in recent years of correcting inequities. As was mentioned before, we corrected the inequity in the cable TV franchise fee, where the town outside portion was going into the town general budget. We corrected the inequity in the school resource officer, where the town outside was paying 100% of the cost of that school resource officer, which the Board of Ed determined wasn't necessary anyway, because they declined to pick up the cost of it. And we're correcting another inequity by doing a revaluation. And we all understand that. Although I was taken aback by a comment that you just made, that we need to do what's best for the most people. Enacting the homestead option would be what's best for the most people. I think you'll admit that. We have 6,300 single-family homeowners and about 1,800 condominium owners. So if you want to know what's best for the most people, then there's the home equity. The problem really lies, excuse me a second, in the law. And I actually brought in a copy of the law, of the tax law, Counselor, section 261. It says the mortgage tax money allotted to cities, towns, and villages shall be applied to the payment of the general expenses thereof. The general is a lowercase g. It's not an uppercase g. It doesn't say it has to be to the general fund. The controller has taken the position, as he legally has, that it should go to the capital G fund, rather than just used for general expenses. And that, I think, is the problem that we're discussing here. It's I guess, the verbiage of the law and the controller's opinion, and that is what it is. But, you know, I still think that we have 7, 8 months to find a way, when you do the budget for 2017, to find a way to accommodate $80,000, which is due to the town outside residents. If we want to be fair to everybody, and that's, you know, that's all I wanted to say. And lastly is I apologize, because this was my idea a few years ago, and I apologize. Thank you.
I don't know why you're apologizing.
I'm being a little,
equitable then.
I'm
But
being
I would like
facetious.
to, I don't wanna get into a whole long, conversation, but I think that the same approach, our discussion about why or why not homestead was what is going to have the least impact on the most people. Even though I might have said it differently, it's still, we were looking at what is going to be the impact that has the greater good advantage. And the reason that we came to the conclusion was because we felt that the effect in the long term on how it could impact commercial properties and the huge imbalance impact on the condominiums, all of those things put together would have had a worse impact on our community as a whole than what without homestead. Now, I know we've talked a lot about this. If we continue to, and also, right, so it would have had this huge leap in year one. one of the things I mentioned earlier, I don't know if you were here at the time, is that we are looking into legislation that would allow a phase-in of the impact for properties that have greater than 25% increase in their assessed values. If they're receiving star enhanced star, so, and then that would be over 3 years. It's different than the than RPC 1904 because that doesn't actually have the intended impact, I think, and it doesn't. It's based on assessments versus based on taxes, so this would phase in the taxes. So we have been working with Assemblywoman Gala's office. We don't know if that can go anywhere, but we're hoping that maybe, since she's the chair of the Real Property Committee, that it might have some benefit in the county, could actually be an incentive for other communities also to consider reassessment, so that everybody can get their rolls up to date. And so that's one thing that we've been working on. But then the other thing that I would say is that, you do have to look at what is in, for the greater good. And if you're gonna impact in looking at some communities that had really horrific things as a result of adopting homestead, impacting their downtowns, I don't think that anybody would wanna do, more harm to our downtown than, like similar to what happened in Kingston or in Newburgh. So I think that, it's you have to look at history and how it's played out in history and take those lessons and apply them to your community to see if it's really what might be seeming like the short-term good for everybody isn't necessarily, because you don't get the benefit of your having more ways to continue to draw commercial interest in your community. So anyway, again, thank you for your comments, and I think that if as we move into budget season, if we have an opportunity to look at that again and see if there are other creative ways to solve the problem, that we will consider that moving forward for the following year. Anybody else? Okay.
Okay. First resolution, resolved that the town board of the town of Ossining.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There needs to be a correction on it. I just realized Toulis is no longer with that firm. It's now Toulis, Wilkes, Huff, and Geiger, LLP, and their address is 220 White Plains Road, Tarrytown. So I think that should just be reflected in the resolution. It's on his letterhead.
Okay. As amended, a special counsel to conduct in rem foreclosure proceedings upon the unpaid tax liens appearing in the 2015 list of delinquent taxes, and to file the 2016 list of delinquent taxes. Compensation to Mr. Toulis shall be in accordance with his letter to the town, dated April 20th, 2016.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention?
Resolved that the town board of the town of Ossining hereby authorizes Robin Goldsand of the RG Agency to perform the title and lien searches required in connection with the 2015 list of delinquent taxes in preparation for in rem foreclosure proceedings at a fee of $200 per parcel, and to prepare documents for the closing of properties that have been auctioned.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, who was doing that before?
These same folks have been doing it for the last couple of years.
I didn't know it was the woman. Okay. I have no problem with it, I just wondered.
Yeah, same person. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. And the mortgage recording tax redistribution request for home rule legislation, can I have a motion to table?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstention?
Abstention.
Okay. All right. So now, I would like to request a motion to adjourn into executive session to discuss contracts and personnel.
I move that we adjourn into executive session to discuss personnel
And contract.
and contracts.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, and then I would just like to,
So did you vote on
I'm
it?
sorry,
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, thank you. I just want to wish a very happy Mother's Day to my colleagues, as well as Councilman Wiltshire, to your wife Jessie. I'm hoping that you're going to treat her very, very well, as
I
well
always do.
I know you do, as well as to all of the mothers and grandmothers out there. We wish you a great Sunday, and please come out Saturday and enjoy the wonderful events, and then spend time with family and friends on Sunday, and have a very happy Mother's Day and enjoy the week. And we'll see you next week for a regular meeting on Tuesday, May 10th, in the court building at 8688 Spring Street. Thank you, everybody, and have a great night.
Yeah.